Yes, but please, listener, go out and find 5 friends and make them Gaytriarchs as well. And that's going to help us get closer and closer to those millions that we are going to immediately donate to the all sorts of equality efforts.
Are you proud of that one? Is that what you want to put on your epitaph?
Should we go back and record it? I'm kidding. Okay, so anyway.
Oh, no. That's a cold open, Gavin. You know how cold opens work. What happens after you ruin something?
And this is Gaytriarchs. Spring, man. I mean, I know that this is going to air a couple of weeks after we record it, but the end of the school year, David, just you
Here we go.
Wait.
Here we go.
It is so bonkers. And every day, frankly, every day of since my kids were probably 1, I wake up and I so often think, oh my God, how many minutes until I get to go back to bed? Which is a terrible way to live life. But springtime, I mean, it's just like everything gets piled on. There's a band concert, then there's a choir concert, then there's a field trip, and and everybody's so busy. And here I am complaining about being busy, but it's real, man. It's real. And were our parents complaining about this in the 60s?
No, they were
David?
Smoking with the windows rolled up. Are you kidding me? They were smoking, and then we were just letting us live outside, and then they'd flash the lights on the porch, and we'd come running home. That was it.
They were not overwhelmed in the springtime by concerts and projects, were they?
No,
I don't know. I do remember April and May being stressful as a high schooler, but that was high school. I don't have high schoolers.
But I also the connectivity too. Like they didn't have connections to all the things. You couldn't have immediate access to anybody at any time. Right. So I think they were like, I don't know. I think I saw a form about a field trip. I don't know. I think he's in Disney World today.
And yet at the same time, that's growing up in Florida, huh? But at the same time, my kid can't remember a field trip form to save his life right now. I mean, not at all. Not at all. In fact,
but there's like portals now and emails, all that kind of stuff. Versus like they would hand you a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper that you had to have an adult sign.
And you were trained from kindergarten to know that goes home, it gets signed and it comes back the next day. I never missed out on any of those. Now, I don't know what my kid's supposed to be doing from day to day. Who knows? No idea. Anyway, so spring, David, it's just so much. But I'm very happy to be here with you and all of our listener.
Oh, well, I want to tell you a quick story about my son who is disgusting. I'm just going to say it. He's disgusting. He brought a rock in from outside and he was telling me a story and he was putting it in his mouth. And I said, Emmett, we cannot put rocks in our mouths. And my daughter, 2-year-old daughter, who is very influenced by her brother, came up. And so I was going to make a point of it. I was like, right, Hannah, we don't put rocks in our mouth. And I was like, so Emmett, tell us, what do we not put? We don't put rocks in our mouth. I said, do we put rocks in our ears? He goes, no, we don't put rocks in our ears. And so we're going through all the things and then we're kind of done. And then I see Emmett kind of looking off and thinking. And then he goes, oh, and we don't put rocks in our buttholes. And I was like, correct. We don't put rocks in our buttholes. Thank you for informing your sister of that. Did Uncle Gavin teach you that word? Because, so we don't put rocks in our buttholes, Gavin, just so you know.
Good to know. And thank you, Emmett. Thank you so much for that, Emmett.
So I want to do it really quickly before we move on to our next topic. I want to apologize to our listener. So we...
have we ever had to issue an apology before? No, I don't think you've been that offensive.
No, this is a bad one. So we here at Gaytriarchs are really raking in the dough. If I'm being honest, we're making a lot of money now. We've already far surpassed last year's goal of 77 cents. So, but part of that is we distribute the show on a platform called Buzzsprout. You don't need to know what it is. It just distributes the podcast to all the places. And they offer an ad program where they're like, we'll put ads on your show and then we'll give you, I think it's 3 cents a download. Oh no, 1.3 cents a download. So it's very, very little amount of money.
Right.
But the problem is they won't let you choose where the ads go. They put them in, they use AI to put them in your show automatically.
Of course.
And I listen to some other podcasts that uses this Buzzsprout advertising platform. And it usually comes in at a place that feels okay. I was listening to our last episode, Gavin. I don't know if you ever have listened to our show. It doesn't sound like
what
it.
Show?
Yeah,
what
exactly. But it was literally in the middle of a sentence. It cut out. and did an ad, and then it cut back in, and it was in the middle of our top 3 list. And so,
yes,
yeah,
yes, I did know that does happen. I didn't listen to the last one.
Wow,
but,
here we go. But so to our listener out there, I apologize. I have zero control over this. But what you can do to help us is get us big advertising guys, and then we can have them insert their ads in places that make sense, and we can rake in the millions of dollars we're going to be raking in. But for now, we're on the bottom of the barrel. We're on the poor person plan. We're on the Medicaid of podcasts. So we're just having to accept what comes our way. But I just wanted to issue that apology to our listener. Sorry, but that's what's going to happen.
Which we will immediately donate to the Trevor Project or HRC.
Yeah, right.
And not park it for ourselves by any stretch.
Are you talking about Hillary Rodham Clinton?
Yeah, I sure am. Because, girl, she's still out there.
She doesn't live far from us either. She lives
really?
She lives pretty close.
Right.
She lives in Westchester.
If we can make her a listener, we'll go to her house and interview her.
So
okay, that was a random aside. Okay, yes, please save us from the pit I'm digging here, David.
God damn it. So in other news, you know who doesn't live near us?
And makes a lot of money?
Colton Underwood. So you all out
remind
there.
Remind us who that is.
So Colton Underwood was a bachelor. He famously was on The Bachelor, and then he was The Bachelor, and then he had this like messy breakup with the girl he chose, and then he came out as gay, and then he got married immediately, and then he had a reality show about finding a date, and it was just like, it was so much all the time. But it was kind of fun for people who were in the Bachelorette franchise, but also a lot of us gay folks were a little eye-rolly about like the social media of it all, and like the fact that his reality show came out so quickly. But anyway, all of that aside, Colton Underwood and his husband are going to be dads. And so they just announced this past week about them doing gestational surrogacy, and him and his husband are expecting their first son, I believe, in October. But I don't know.
We have nothing but great things to say about, right? Yay!
Yes,
Colton.
It's welcome to the club. Your Gaytriarchs thank you note will be in the email. It's all coming to you. But what was blowing my mind about this article, I don't know if you read it, but it was talking about like, oh, they experienced some setbacks. They're doing surrogacy. They finally got pregnant, and then they said something. They said, sorry, I want to pull it up and read it out loud. They said, soon enough, they found a suitable surrogate and invested another $350,000 in the process to turn their dream of having a family into reality.
Wait, we have talked to a lot of surrogacy folks, and we always talk about how, hey, it is definitely expensive, but $350K?
And the way it's written, it says another $350K. So are we talking $700K? So they talk in the article about they had some sperm issues, so they had to do like, what is it called? ICSI or ICE, the like sperm, whatever. Anyway, but I was like, 350, the most expensive journey I've ever heard of after it's done was like $250,000. And that's because they had like 5 miscarriages and multiple surrogates, and like a big thing.
Damn.
They haven't even had a child yet.
Yeah.
they're already this far into, like, what is happening on the financial side of this?
You are reminded there are the haves and the have-nots in this world.
Or are they taking advantage of him because he's a celebrity?
Totally.
Do you know what I mean?
Then there's that for sure.
Anyway.
For sure. Wow, Colton.
So I love that Colton.
I love that you brought us into the gay news factor, and I cannot wait to welcome Colton and his hubby to our show.
Yep.
So shout out to anybody who knows Colton out there. Send him our way, please. But also in other gay news, did you know that the Iraqi legislature hates the gays?
The Iraq and the Iran, such as... do you remember that video from like the early mid 2000s? Yeah.
Yes.
No, I did not.
Well,
I did not know that they hated the gays.
The Iraqi legislature has recently illegalized sex with a partner of the same gender and will prosecute you with a 10 to 15-year prison sentence. Which, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's almost less serious than I would have expected, frankly. I mean,
you have such a low bar for these things. Like, you're like, well, he didn't get beheaded. It's like, well, bro, the bar. But also, there goes my fucking vacation plans to Iraq.
To Baghdad, right.
Oh,
right.
my God.
Exactly. I mean, just when Iraq hasn't been in the news for a long time, which is frankly a good thing. It's good that it seems to be a country getting its act together, and congratulations, and good for them. And sorry we screwed everything up for you for a lot of time there. But really, are we going after the gays in Iraq in 2024?
I just feel like maybe it's because I'm insulated from a lot of the culture of that side of the world as it is now, but it just seems so boring nowadays to introduce anti-gay legislature. I get it
totally.
if it's on the books or if it's already part of your culture, but if you're like, oh, I'm going to make a change and it's going to go backwards, I'm just like, that's easily the most boring thing I've ever heard in my life.
And just imagine whatever changes might come to states here in the United States in years to come, if we should go down that path, and we're going to be like, wow, congratulations, bigoted state.
Alabama,
you're like Iraq. You're like Iraq in 2024.
Alabama is the Iraq of the United States, as I've always said.
But don't worry, we're not going to have to worry about that because everything's going to be fine in November. And also, everything's fine because we can thank German soccer players for coming out. There was a big old announcement for some German footballing team that they were going to make some big group announcement on, on May 17th. And they were all going to come out en masse. And then you dig deeper into the news and you look at the comments, frankly, and you see, oh, no, this is just a way to sell clicks. And it's just clickbait because every year some sports team in Europe, bless them, say that a bunch of them are going to come out, and then that actually never happens. So that's my fake gay news of the week. But I did read
sports. I feel like sports culture has changed in a really amazing way. Where like being gay and playing sports or whatever is like so cool now. I think to the straight players, like I don't know if this is true. This is just my like total like junior guess, but it feels like if you're a gay person on a football team, it's like A-okay with everyone, and I think that's really awesome because. No?
I mean, I hope you're right about that. I don't know. There would be some who would take you to task for it, though. I have a feeling. I mean, what about the dude, the kicker from the Kansas City Chiefs, who like gave his bigoted, homophobic, misogynistic
talking about
speech?
Boring again? So fucking boring. You guys are like, oh, we should take away women's right to vote and contraception and gays' right to legal marriage. I'm like, guys, this is literally everything. This was like the plot for every fucking TV show 10 years ago. Do we have anything new in the tank? This is so boring.
Well, David, do we have anything new in the tank?
We do. We have something new and helpful, and it's our dad hack of the week, which is coming from me, which is really rare because I am not good at this. But something I've learned lately is when you're asked a question from your kid that is either hard to explain or you don't want to explain. So like, am I going to die? Or where do babies come from, but at a time where they're not quite ready to understand that? What I've learned, and this is obviously from TikTok, is before you answer that question, you say, well, what do you think happens?
Ooh,
do you think you're going to die? What do you think? And because what I found is that he always, or I'm talking about my son, he always has an answer. He's always been stewing with an idea. Lately, it's been, if I'm being totally honest, like, is grandma going to die? Is grandpa going to die? Are you going to die? Am I going to die? There's a lot of death in the world, and nobody's died in our life recently, but it's just kind of on the tip of his tongue. And so I've asked him, I'm like, well, what do you think? And it's really gotten me out of a couple pickles. Now, I'm not totally avoiding talking to my child, but I do try to make it a practice to avoid talking to my child.
And you want to make it age appropriate, and also try to figure out what are they really getting at, because in a lot of ways they just want to verify information they already have. So that's I love that dad hack. That deserved its own theme song. Let's revisit it.
You know what else has a theme song?
Tell me.
Our top 3 list.
Gaytriarchs top 3 list. 3, 2, 1.
And that's you. Does everyone know that that's Gavin singing and your husband playing the piano and composing it?
I do believe that you have made that announcement.
I don't know if you're proud of it or not, but
I appreciate it. I'm very proud of it. Very, very proud of it. Now, I completely forgot, though, because we recorded our last announcement about what the top 3 list about 6 months ago. So slight exaggeration. Is this yours or is it mine? But I'm ready. Don't worry.
Wow. It sounds like you're ready. This week is my list, and this list is the top 3 things that were true when you were a kid, but that are no longer true. And
alrighty.
So I'll go first. In number 3, to medicate fevers. And when you have a fever, when you were a kid, you were like, oh, you have to take Tylenol to reduce your fever. Like a fever equaled bad. And now we know, no, the fever is the body's response, the physiological response to getting rid of the shit that's in your body. And now if it gets, I think it's over 104, then it becomes dangerous. You need to medicate. Yeah. But now all of the doctors I've ever seen, when our kid has had a fever, 102, 101 or whatever, they're like, no, let them have the fever. unless it gets dangerous. So number 3,
what if they have
fevers.
What if it's a fever for the flavor of a Pringle, though?
And number 2, that the Brontosaurus is real. There is no Brontosaurus. That was not a dinosaur. It was a couple of parts of other dinosaurs that they put together, and there is no Brontosaurus. I forget. It's like a Brachiosaurus or something is the actual thing, but there is no Brontosaurus.
Yeah. Wow. This is all right.
You're learning lots of new information today.
So many things.
And number 1, also in the dinosaur world, my number 1 thing that was true as a kid that is no longer, that dinosaurs didn't have feathers. Dinosaurs had feathers, people. All the dinosaurs that that you remember as kids, that like scaly reptilian skin. Well, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them were like fucking chickens. A bunch of chickens.
Right. Like the Tyrannosaurus Rex, the T-Rex was a chicken. Basically, right?
Yeah. Okay. And delicious with barbecue sauce. So,
you are so clearly in the midst of all of this toddler science-based information. Mm-hmm. I feel like the feathers information has come out recently, but that's just so not on my radar. I don't pay attention to it. So that's interesting.
Well, it has nothing to do with gratitude.
Well, my approach here, I feel like I didn't quite let you put an exclamation point at the end of your top 3. Did you?
You normally don't. I have a special mention and everything, but no, go ahead, please. Stomp on my dreams.
Please give us your special mention.
Raise the bar, Gavin.
Please.
Let's hear your.
Okay, well,
actually,
I'm going to lower the bar, and I'm going to pass that football right back to you so that you can put the special mention in, okay? Because I took this in a completely different direction, and I bet I turned it into a topic that we've done before, but I'm actually quite proud of these. I was thinking about things not true from my perspective, not from hard data science.
That works.
Things that were true that when I was a kid that are not true now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, watching TV all day rocks.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do it. I hate it. I have way too much guilt. I can watch about a half an hour of TV maybe in the morning, but I just sit there quivering thinking, there's so much I need to do. There's so much I need to do here on this Saturday. I mean, I should just be able to sit and watch TV with my kid. Nope, I can't do it. And I definitely can't just sit around and watch TV all day, even though I dream about it just like anybody else does. Number 2, everything new and shiny is better.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that anymore.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 1, adults know everything.
Oh, God.
I mean, if I can tell my kids anything, I'm like, listen, we're all fucking faking it. And so,
do you ever project yourself back into when you were a kid and you were looking at these adults as these like pillars of confidence and strength and knowledge, and then go back to that point as a kid and think about them as idiots who are just barely getting by? And if you had ever spoken up, they would have probably bowed down to you. Like, oh my God.
Totally. Yeah, no, 100. That's my entire point. Okay, so I'm going to launch it right back to you though about what is your special.
I just had a special mention. You know, it's funny. I'm realizing all of mine are very science based. My special mention,
but I really like it.
Is Pluto. Is it a planet? Is it not a planet?
I wrote it down.
We don't know.
I wrote it down.
Did you really?
That was going to be my special mention to basically just say, oh well, if we're being all scientific, you're right. What is Pluto?
Nobody knows.
Today on May 2024.
Yep.
What is Pluto? I don't.
Pluto. Listen, Pluto is its own thing. It's agender. It's non-binary. It is not going to be fucking following your goddamn binary rules of the world.
Do not put Pluto in a box.
No.
Do not.
So what are we going to put in a box next week, Gavin?
So for next week, I want to know what are the top 3 generational or childhood traumas that you actually want your kid to go through. So while not an actor, our next guest seems to have his real-life headlines ripped from Hollywood. He has lived so many different lives that probably would make for great screenplays. He grew up in a funeral home. He married a woman, had kids, lived in San Francisco in the 80s and 70s, I believe, while straight, came out, married a man, has children and grandchildren, and is overall helping the world as an LGBTQ plus educator in many different forms. Also, he's written a book about which we'll talk later. Welcome to Gaytriarchs, our very first grandzaddy, Kevin O'Connor.
Welcome. All right, I didn't realize I was the first. I know that's great to be the first granddad here. That's wonderful.
Well, even more, the first grandzaddy. So
granddaddy,
your life sounds like it was basically the basis of 6 Feet Under, which I'm sure is so basic, and you get asked that all the time. So what I really want to know is, which character were you in Tales from the City?
Oh, I wished I was more familiar with Tales of the City. You're catching me with my gay pants down.
Totally like to do that with our guests.
Because I didn't watch that show. I watched segments, but never enough to put it together. I loved the concept and loved it being set in San Francisco, of course, because that's where I lived for a number of years. But I really can't identify that closely with any of the characters.
That's all right. Well, that was definitely one of. I mean, David, have you watched?
I
Tales
don't,
from the
and
City?
I know of its lore, and I know what it kind of is, but I just it totally missed me.
Well, once again, this is a really great way for me.
Gavin, you're doing a bang up job already. And it's really it's going
as
great.
as always. Well, for those of you who need to refresh your gay cards, Tales from the City is definitely of the lore. So anyway. You're our very first granddaddy we've had on the show. Congrats on being a pioneer and a leader.
Well, thank you.
Do you know all your grandkids' birthdays offhand?
Yeah, I do. Now, could I be put to the spot to pull them off without taking up too much broadcast time? No, but I know if I can't remember them readily, I know where to access them.
No joke. Yes. Whenever I'm asked about my daughter is my second kid, and whenever I'm asked about her birthday, they're like, "What's her birthday?" I'm always like 1/14, and then I have to kind of think for a second about what year. I don't know why, but like the since COVID, years don't really mean anything to me anymore. So I forget sometimes. So I'm sure by the time we have grandchildren, I will have absolutely no idea what any of their names are. Yeah.
So you obviously have a lot of stories about your family makeup, but could you give us the brass tacks of how you ended up where you are now, and tell us about your family?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, my current family and my present, and combined with my past family, I've been married to Leon and been with Leon for almost 20 years. We were married in 2015. Between the two of us, we have 5 sons, and we have 7 granddaughters, ranging in age between the youngest is 5, and the oldest is 23. Will be 23 shortly. So they range in age from those ages, and they keep us pretty busy. They're spread around the country in Illinois, Pennsylvania, Florida. So that gives us our travel wings to go visit, and then some of them are local, so we get to see them. Mm-hmm. So they keep us. I love this stage of life. I've loved all the stages of my life, but this is interesting to be a part of their lives and to know how Leanne and I have incorporated this, our blended. You used that in one of your prompt questions to me. This blended family and how happy we are and how successful it is. It's not without its things that are happening too, but mostly 99% excellent, and that's what brings me. That's why I'm in Fort Lauderdale. I moved here to be with Leon shortly after I first met him, and we brought our families
How did you
together.
Meet Leon?
So we met through a mutual friend. I had a college friend, still have that college friend. And when I was first coming out in 2005, I had coincidentally reacquainted myself with this college friend who told me that he also was married and had taken the steps to come out of his marriage and had 2 kids. And so he became one of my confidants in that whole process. And then about 3 or 4 months into that process, he called me and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, I was a school principal at the time, summertime. I said I was working in my office, and he said, "Well, I have this person that's been through our situation, leaving a marriage," and he said he's in I was in the Chicago area at the time. He says he's in a convention in Chicago, and maybe he would have some ideas for you. So I called. This happened to be Leanne, and the other friend's name is Jaime. He wasn't intending to matchmake us or anything like that. He just thought I needed some help.
Yeah.
So I called Leon and we talked, and then Leon changed his plans to come back to Florida the next day, and we met for dinner and a long night and that was the start. That was in July of 2005.
Cool.
And we've been together ever since. So we met on the steps of the Art Institute in Chicago.
That's so sweet.
Which is
that's where
the gayest thing you've said so far. So
the Art Institute.
How did your kids then on both sides take to being part of a new queer blended family?
Oh, okay, that's a great question. They've taken to it well. They initially, he and I that was 2005 when we met. We decided that we would just get ourselves oriented to each other before we started talking about this relationship. I, at the time, was just departing from my marriage situation, living in the basement of my suburban home.
Oh, wow.
Still there when I met him. So all this was very unplanned, but welcomely unplanned. When I decided to split from the marriage, I had no idea that someone would be coming into my life so quickly. So in any way, I went through the process of the divorce. We, my wife, my former wife, did all that. That took about a year. So the summer of 2006, fall of 2006, is when we started to tell each of our children individually about what this relationship that we had fostered in the past year and what we were going to do about it. I met his kids when Leon turned 60 in September of 2006. He had me come to Fort Lauderdale, and I met the whole family at once. His kids, grandkids, brothers, friends, about 60 people. That was how I was introduced to the group. So
when you were getting divorced, before you told your kids about Leon, did their kids know that you were getting divorced because you were coming out as gay, or was that was still under the rug?
Oh boy, that's I like to think there was a sequence to that whole plan, but pretty much the divorce part. My mom was my counselee at that time. That's another story.
Wow.
But we decided I had 2 years left of my public school principal contract in the northwest suburbs of Chicago, and we decided, I decided with her that, hey, it's not a good time to be a soapbox gay. It's not a good time to stand up on a platform and say who I am, what I am. So we decided let's get the family used to the concept of divorce first. I mean, that's a change in any family when a particular couple gets divorced. So we did that. I did that and just navigated my way through that. And then when the divorce, so the kids knew that we were getting divorced. That was no secret. But the idea that I was gay came out after the divorce was final. And of course, my wife and I knew that was one of the factors, not the entire factor, but that was one of the factors. But I didn't really myself personally engage in conversation with my sons or my brothers until after the divorce was legal. So that's the answer to your question, David.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'm fascinated because we've talked with a couple of dads who were in straight relationships before they came out, and I'm always fascinated with what was that turning point for you. Did you always have this background of like, I think I'm gay, but I'm going to stuff it back, and then you let it out, or was it like a later in life realization? And also, like how that first conversation goes with your wife? Is it like, hey, I think this, and she's like, yeah, I know, or is it just like, I'm fascinated by that turning point. What was that for you?
There's a couple turning points because I was married. I was married to the mother of my children, but prior to that, I was married another time, first time.
Good for you. Third time's a charm.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It is. It'd take me a little while to get it right, but with my first wife, she and I had been very good college friends. To this now, we have a very strong, renewed friendship.
That's great.
Talk often. And that was in 1977, which gets back to one of your questions, about the Harvey Milk era. But that was in 1977, 78. We got married in 75. So in, I think, 76, 77, I was able to say to her, hey, I think I might be attracted to guys. Mm-hmm. And probably that's how I said it. I don't know how I put it to her. I can visualize where I was when I said it. But she's, well, let's go talk to somebody. She'd already been in a counseling sessions for herself, for her own personal growth. And so I found a person to talk to, and that started my initial conversations. So she was very supportive and helped encourage me to talk to people. We proceeded with our plan to move back to the northwest suburbs of Chicago. We came back in 78, stayed married, and then by spring of 79, that marriage had ended. So in terms of your question, my first wife, yeah, we had those discussions, went to counseling, tried to unpack all that, and then decided to separate and divorce. And then what did I do? I went back into a dating, I won't call it a pool, but I married again in the 70s, early 80s. I wanted to be a dad.
Yeah.
And so that ties very much into your conversations here.
Yeah.
But at the time I didn't, to be a dad, I felt I needed to be married.
Sure.
And not that was my that was not my objective. I wanted to have a relationship. So then I met my second wife, who happened to be a colleague in the school district where I worked. And then we got married and had two kids. And that situation, 20 some years after the marriage, is when I had buried it so long. I think you had mentioned that word. And me being gay was just not anything I put on the table, either, for other people and even for myself. I referred to it as sort of a pit in my stomach, just in the abdomen. It always sat there. It was there. It was there from the time I was teenager. But it just, it found different ways to peek out. So in that relationship, when my son, who was then 16 or so, decided that it looked like he was on his way to be coming out, and I wanted to have a conversation with him about it. We were still in our house. I was still married, and had this conversation with him thinking, gee, I'm trying to help him, but I can't even be authentic with myself.
Wow.
And so and at that point in time, I know there was, and then my wife, I was seeing a counselor at the time. We were in different phases of counseling, either couples counseling, family counseling with the kids, individual counseling. Yeah, I'm not one to shy away from counseling.
Yeah.
And she at one point said that I think after I admitted to her that I was gay, and then she agreed to come to counseling with me, and we tried to put things together then, and that didn't work either. So, and I think she even posed a question to me one time. She said, "Do you think you are gay?" And I said, "Well, I think I project a point in the future of my life. Well, I'll be in a relationship with a man." So,
wow.
So that was without saying it directly. At that point, she decided probably it was in her best interest to just take a long drive, and she left the house for the afternoon. But I don't say that lightly. It was very hard.
Yeah.
Well,
but I did say it lightly, but it was a very hard time. Yeah.
Well, what you're working through, though, it's a lot of heavy stuff, and you could have shame over it or not, because I don't know. We live the life we live, and here you are now, and you're living in full authenticity. And I would imagine that's what informs your counseling / teaching / mentoring to queer kids, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, what is it about life that there's a Yiddish term called beschert, Bashert, beschert, and it means meant to be. So sometimes when I look back on my years and thinking about when I was getting married the first time during the Harvey Milk era and struggling in my mind with, I was a teacher. That was the whole point of Harvey Milk's campaigns, was that they had a referendum in California to deny gay teachers the right to be employed in public schools. And so I had that in my mind. Here I'm a teacher. I'm about to get married. I want to be a teacher. I guess this is not a time for me to come out with this going on and me being married. And yet to find myself at the end of my career, starting in 2011, being offered a position in the Broward Public Schools here in Fort Lauderdale to help with LGBTQ advocacy. I mean, who would have thought?
Yeah.
So that's where the Bashert comes in. It's sort of a meant to be.
Yeah.
It is
Meant
totally
to be.
meant to
It's
be.
a meant to be.
And it's meant to be that you're here right now with us, telling us also about your book. Now, all that we've talked about here and all you've shared with us actually has nothing to do with the book that you've recently published, but I find this actually super interesting because it is definitely meant to be. If it weren't for 6 Feet Under, hopefully it'll still make another movie. Tell us about 2 Floors Above Grief.
Well, yeah, I brought this to the coffee shop with me. 2
Oh, look
floors
at that.
above grief.
Oh,
there we go.
It is.
We're celebrating the 18th month of publication, so that's I'll have something on social media about that next week. But it's been quite a journey, and it chronicles. It's a memoir, but it chronicles my upbringing in a funeral home in a town called Elgin, Illinois, which is a little northwest of Chicago. And I was born in 1950, and when they brought me home from the hospital, I was brought home to that house that's on the cover of the book. And that house was an old Victorian house, and the upstairs had been a ballroom in its original form, and my father and mother and aunt and uncle converted that 3rd floor into an apartment for our family. The 2nd floor was also a collection of bedrooms in the original house. That was an apartment for my aunt and uncle and my 3 cousins. And this was all above the funeral home on the 1st floor. Hence, two floors above grief. Yeah. So,
I mean, it definitely lends itself to the idea that a funeral home life is just full of like tension and drama and ghosts and bipolarity and I mean all sorts of.
I mean,
shit, huh?
Kevin, have you watched 6 Feet Under?
Oh yeah, I've watched every episode.
I will never forget. I watched. So I was moving to an apartment in Queens with my roommate at the time, and he wasn't going to be there for like a week. So it was just me in this empty apartment with like I remember it was one chair from IKEA, and I had a TV, and I was this was for the kids out there. This was back in the day when Netflix would mail you DVDs. And so I decided I was going to go from episode 1 to the very end of 6 Feet Under. And I did it in about a week or so. And I remember watching the last episode and being so inconsolable, crying. Well, I'm not generally a crier. I was so inconsolable that I had to get out of my apartment and I had to walk around the neighborhood for a half an hour just to calm down.
It's
because
one of the
these people were so meaningful to me in my life. And so, and the last episode, spoiler alert for people who haven't seen the show that was made 25 years ago, is that they take all the characters that you've met in the show and then they kind of fast forward to watching them all die. Some of them die of old age, some of them die young or whatever. And it was just this weird realization that, when your life is over, that's it. Everyone's gone. And it was this, I remember just being so fucking affected by it.
I just want to say it's one of the most satisfying show endings of all time, for sure.
It's thematic. It's wonderful.
And it ties right in with the, they started each episode with a death. And then they intertwined the story of that particular case with their own things in the family. So to conclude the series with the deaths of those characters makes it real, and I incorporate that in the book because of the 10 characters in 2 Floors Above Grief, there's 3 remaining, my 2 brothers and I. So that one of the last chapters is just talking about the passing of each one of my parents, my aunt, my uncle, my 3 cousins, in a similar fashion to what, and I make the reference in the book. Hey, like 2 Floors Above Grief, like 6 Feet Under. Sort of preview the deaths. This is the deaths in our Undertaker family. This is how the people in our family died. And so it's pretty inevitable what we've got ahead of us.
And why is it, though, that you felt compelled to write it? Did you just have a lot of crazy stories? And if so, what's your favorite crazy story from the book?
Okay. What compelled me to write it was I'd had these stories in my head for a lot of years growing up in that environment from birth until I was 22 and left to start my own life.
Yeah.
I had these stories in my head, as did other members of the family, and we would, from that original group of family, there's now about 150 offspring. We're into the great-great-grandchild area now of that. So when we still get together, either social network-wise or personally, and there's still, hey, tell us the story about this. And I thought, okay, somebody's got to put this together. Well, compounded with that and enhanced by it was the idea that the family had written letters back and forth when people used to write letters.
Sure.
We're talking
Gavin, you
30s,
remember
40s,
that.
50s, 60s, 70s, way before internet and email. So another undercurrent of the whole book is the family letters that went back and forth. I had about 700 pages of family letters. So when I retired in 2020 from public schools, I thought, now's my time. So in 2021 is when I started working with people to help me put these ideas together, and consulted with and worked on different classes to help me get it organized, and use those 700 pages of letters as sometimes launch pads, but also just ways to present the characters of the book.
Mm-hmm.
So I make a lot of references to their stories, their writing, and the most fun part about writing the book was when I would take those letters and keyboard them in to my transcripts and my writing. I was thinking, hey, those are their real words.
Mm-hmm.
That's so, and they're revealing characters and revealing the personalities. It was their words that were speaking. So that was a gratifying thing. Partly that's why I wrote the book, and that was a unique story.
Yeah.
And there are other people in the world who are raised in funeral homes. There are other people in the world that are raised in whatever business their parents chose to have. Some kids lived above their pediatrician's office. Some kids lived above their printing office, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of this kids in my own growing up years. So it wasn't unusual for a family to live in the house where the business was. It was more true of undertakers and funeral directors because you had to live close by the premises to answer the phone and stuff. So the number of I mean, I don't. You had mentioned the things about drama and tension and the things that you might see in 6 Feet Under. Our family wasn't quite as quirky as that, and that I was able to uncover. If there was sexual repression, that was my own. I mean, as a teenager, I was in an environment that I was going to come out in that time. But what I try to bring out in the book, and I think I did pretty successfully, according to readers, is that our family normalized the existence of living in a funeral home. I was able to have kids over for sleepovers and do things in the backyard and play games and hang out. And I would go to their house. They would come to mine. We didn't have any trick-or-treaters, but on the other hand, our house was a very welcoming place. So that's one memory that I take from the house.
Yeah.
I also some people say, did you ever get scared? I said, well, it was so normal to me to live in that environment that I never really spent a lot of time thinking about it. Although I do recall sometimes, especially after I started driving myself or coming home on my own, even before I was driving, letting myself in the door and knowing that there was a body laid out in the casket as I would walk through the corridors of the funeral home. I do remember running up the stairs.
No doubt.
Oh, I got to get away from that. I want to get upstairs. That passed real quickly. But
before you check their wallet for cash.
Yeah,
course.
that's true.
You know what I mean?
But there was nothing that that I saw.
Yeah.
People say, didn't you see ghost? No. I mean, people who lived in the house before us in the 1800s, they did have residents that died in the house. But interestingly, one of the people that died in the house, his first name was Connor, Connor. And so then we end up O'Connor taking over the funeral home. But that's another aside.
Gavin's spirit died in his own house. He's dead inside now. So the
really?
ghost of his previous. Yeah. Gavin, can you imagine a time where you had to write letters back and forth instead of unlocking a Grindr album of your dick pics? Can you imagine having to send an actual letter to somebody describing your dick?
Literally, instant gratification was not invented until the late 2000s. I mean, come on.
I had to handle that in a different way. I tell a little story in the book where I would go to, as a teen, the way to sort of satisfy my curiosity about, we didn't call it gay in the 50s or the 60s.
Did you call it like razzmatazz? What'd you call it?
Yeah, really. I do have a theater background. Yeah.
Okay.
But no, I would go to the magazine shop. It's called Schickler's in Elgin. And that was where I would hang out. I mean, when I talk about this was masses of magazines.
Sure.
But even at very clear for the eye to see, on not a high shelf or anything, were the muscle magazines and the thing is that those. So that is where I would just pique my curiosity a little bit, was stand there and then look over my shoulder to see, gee, I wonder who in town is going to walk in and see me standing here looking at these magazines.
Well, listen, that's primitive cruising. You were basically waiting for the other guy to be looking at the muscle magazines.
There we
cruising,
go.
Kevin. Yeah.
It was. Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that as a 13-year-old.
Oh no, but like I did the same thing in the Macy's underwear aisle. I remember just like hanging out in front of those boxes, staring at those men, and kind of secretly hoping somebody would see me and also be interested, and then we go off in the changing room. Kevin, I have a question. So you're a grandparent, which I think I'm very much looking forward to. I've watched my mom go from a mom to a grandma, and how that's changed. I'm curious for you, parenting your own kids and also now parenting in a different way your grandkids. What is better and what is worse? Like what are the things that you love about it, and what are things that you're like, fuck this, never again?
My mother used to, when I was having my as a dad and living the life of a dad and getting, enjoying it a whole lot and loving it. But, there were the times of poop and diarrhea and throw up and, all the stuff that we go through as parents, and the rebellion child, whether it's a 2-year-old or a 17-year-old, all that stuff was going on. And my mom would say to me, I said, Mom, did you remember doing this with us? And she said, really, Kev, it's just for me, she says, I've forgotten most everything. She says, and you probably will too. and when I think back along, some of the individual incidents of being a father, my kids are 42 and 40 now. When I think about some of the individual incidents, I don't remember a whole lot of them. Not the unpleasant ones. I mean, I remember more the pleasant ones of pushing them in the stroller, taking them to their school activities, coaching soccer, riding bikes, those kind of stuff.
But I think that's real. I think, and all kidding aside, Gavin, like Gavin, I think often forgets. I think parents, after a couple of years, your brain starts to dump some of the traumatic parts of certain ages and kind of remembers. You'll remember one or two, like, I had a tantrum in the mall things, but really you kind of go, oh man, I miss that age.
Yep.
And it's so funny to watch from this young. I mean, I'm devastatingly young, but I mean, my kids are very young position because I'm like, am I having an experience that's totally different than everyone else? And I think as I already being around infants, I'm like, oh, fuck, I forgot about that weird thing you have to do with your hand to keep their hands out of their mouth. And I was like, oh, my brain is just dumping this shit because it's like, this doesn't serve me anymore.
Yeah,
so
totally
it's
true.
probably totally reasonable that your kids are in their 40s. You're like, I don't remember that kind of stuff because I don't need to.
And yet you can put yourself back in those shoes. And I can say, I remember it was so hard. I just can't remember the specifics anymore. And I've lost that feeling, that PTSD physical feeling of, oh my God, it was so hard.
I think part of it is we just did it when I was with their mom, my wife, and we were both working, and the dinner routine, the bath routine, the reading, the going to bed, the reading routine, the schlepping them around school stuff or practices. And it was just, you just did it. And I don't think, there was probably tension there and figuring there, but I forget about that tension part. I mean, I guess one of the more memorable experiences was when my then 2-year-old, he didn't disappear. He walked in another room, and unbeknownst to us, he put the live end of an extension cord into his mouth.
Oh!
And we heard this really intense scream. We were sitting at the kitchen table.
I've never heard that. Wow.
And I walked in to find him sitting there. I think the thing was out of his mouth, but his lip was foaming from the burn, from the electrical burn.
Holy cow!
And I just all I could do was just take him in my arms and take him to the local emergency room, and a few treatments and some plastic surgeries later.
Holy shit! Like full-on plastic surgery.
Yeah, I learned all about this part of the lip, the commissure. I think it's commissure part of the lip, where the upper and the lower part of your lip comes together.
Wow!
And that's where the burn was. And so when that healed, we were directed to a what do you call it? Dermatologist?
Yeah.
No, a plastic surgeon. Plastic surgeon. who then put us on a regimen of surgeries. And
Holy cow!
Oh my God!
it would take a trained eye to, now that he's 42, it would take a trained eye to see that the scar is there.
Sure.
But it was pretty traumatic at the time.
Dang.
And then some things that your kids get into that are unexpected that you just don't know. We had,
Yeah.
in the teen years, we had the car accidents, we had the disappearing things, the why you don't drink now, that kind of stuff. But all those things, it's just part of the life, part of the process.
Now here, I just want to make jokes about like somebody calling Child Protective Services, but of course that was in the 80s or so. And so they would have been like, whatever, here, are you even the dad? We don't really care. Here's the kid. We'll just hand him back to you. Go give him a box of blue Kraft macaroni and cheese, put him back in front of the cartoons and leave him alone. But
yeah, I don't remember any of that. And that was 1983 or 84. I don't remember, maybe 85. I didn't remember any of those questions when I got to the hospital.
I'm sure. It's different now. It's different now, for sure.
Although I was a school, was I 85? I was just a teacher then. But
Gavin, you often have burning in the corner of your mouth as well.
I absolutely
do. About that a little bit. Yeah. What at this point now, you've raised many kids and many grandkids. What is your absolute favorite part of parenting or being a grandparent? And then what is your least favorite part about parenting or being a grandparent?
Well, the most favorite part from being a grandparent is just watching all the directions the kids take and having that joy of being involved remotely or directly with the kids as they make their decisions. I got, one of the granddaughters just got her master's in finance, and to see that kind of the way that she is putting her life together, and the other granddaughters are making change, graduating from college, pursuing careers, entering college. The younger kids in Philadelphia and in Illinois, they're doing the soccer practice, the gymnastics. The two of them just lost their dog yesterday, so they're going through that. So I like being a part of that. I like one of the things Leon's kids did when the 10-year-old was born about 10 years ago. They called me and they said, okay, we have this new baby coming in, and up to this point, the other 4 granddaughters have called you Kevin. But what do you want to be called? I thought, wow, that's a cool question. I was so gratified that they asked. I did a little research, and I have Irish roots, Swedish roots, and Italian roots.
Mr. O'Connor is how I will be.
So I settled. I did a little research, and I said to them, you know what? I've learned that the derivative of Gaelic grandfather is da, D-A. So I use that, and so that was
great.
I feel like we're in an era of grandparents really leaning into this. Like, I'm not going to be called grandpa or grandma. I'm going to have like Zaza, Jaja, like Nana. Like, everyone wants to not be grandpa or grandma. I've discovered this with all 3 sets of my grandparents for my kids. Is that they all like, no, I don't want to be grandma. I want to be.
So that they took the da on, but then at that time the older granddaughters were in high school, junior high, and they were taking Spanish. So they said, okay, and they had learned that the Spanish word for grandpa was abuelo, so that they took the D-A, put a hyphen in it because of O'Connor, and they called me Dabuelo. So
nice.
It got reinvented that way.
And that can be your rap name too, if you ever want to get into a rap. Okay, what's your least favorite part?
My least favorite of what? Grandparenting?
Parenting in general, or being a grandparent. What's the worst part?
The worst part is just there's pain involved. There's setbacks. There's disappointment. I mentioned to Gavin in our pre-call a couple weeks ago that one of my sons has decided to estrange himself in a relationship with me and my husband Leon. Nothing to do with being gay. Just he's just made that decision, regrettably, and that would be the saddest part, the hardest part. To know that, if you'd asked me 6, 7, 8 years ago, would I be online getting ideas about estrangement or talking to other people in the same situation or writing articles about it? Or no, I wouldn't have had that idea. So I guess the most painful part is to know that in all aspects of our life, there's pain, there's disappointment, there's setbacks, there's navigation. I mean, that goes whether we're gay, straight, or undecided.
These are just, you're helping map out the human condition for all of us. For sure.
Yeah. And I guess that would be in a world where of parenting and grandparenting, which is exemplary and something I've wanted to be all my life, was a parent and a grandparent. It's so rich.
Yeah.
But I have to keep room for. I've been put in a position to keep room for disappointments, for things that don't work out, and I learn. How do you learn from that? And how do I find a resource? How do I find the counselor that helps me through that situation? So I think that's to answer that question, David. It's just the world of parenting and grandparenting, as you two know, is full of. It's full of poop, but it's full of balloons too, and full of
poopy balloons. Kevin O'Connor.
Sometimes
where to got her quote?
Sometimes all together. Yes,
it's full of shit, and it's full of hot air, and it's full of things that bring a lot of joy too. A lot of joy.
Because actually,
I think to me, you've just summarized parenting better than anything.
Totally.
Anybody who's been on our show.
There we go.
Poop and balloons full of shit too. So.
Kevin, thank you so much for being out there, speaking out, sharing your truth, and once again, making the world a better place and demeaning yourself by being on our stupid little podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me part of your program.
So my something great is a baby.
What?
My friend Griffin. He's our listener. He's one of our listeners. Our listener. We can't really say that anymore. We have a lot of listeners now. He and his wife just had their first baby, and I went over to their house and held a 4-day-old baby, which is so wild because you're like, I don't actually remember having babies this small. Like, I have a 2 and a 4-year-old. That was not that long ago they were this small. I legitimately was holding her and I was like, I don't really remember this, but it was kind of fun and kind of fun to be around first time parents who are so fucking delusional in their first week of life. They're like, I'm not tired. They were like, honestly, I'm not tired. I feel really great. Like, it's been really great. And I was like, babe, month 2 and month 3, call me. But it was really fun to be around them, and I'm really happy she's here, and fun to see people having kids, and they're straight. So, they had a baby the old-fashioned way via IVF. So, congratulations, Griffin and his new daughter.
My something great is that it is flowery season, and I'm not a flower person, and I know this is so basic, but God, it feels good when you live in the Northeast to just be in springtime, and there are flowers all over the place. And it is a moment to just stop and smell the roses. I have had some family friends who are very sick, and they have reminded me that, God, you got to live for every single day, right? So as cheesy as that is, I'm like real happy for the spring and the flowers and living for every single day. And that is, that's as basic as it gets, but just go out and, live your life.
It's basic as it gets, but it's pretty gay too.
Is it?
That you're something great is flowers. It's pretty gay. But that's our brand. Gay and bad parents.
And so go out and live for every day and still call your kids names. Because that's what we live for.
Smell some flowers and ignore your kids. That's what we say here on Gaytriarchs.
And that's our show. If you have any comments, suggestions, or general compliments, you can email us at GaytriarchsPodcast@gmail.com.
Or you can DM us on Instagram. We are at GaytriarchsPodcast. On the internet, David is at David FM Bond everywhere, and Gavin is at Gavin Lodge on Tulip Time.
Please leave us a glowing 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts.
Thanks, and we'll smell you later on another episode of Gaytriarchs.